I'm standing here where the old station was at Sheffield, Alabama. As you can kind of look, as I'm panning around, you'll just see the platform. But back then there was a railroad station. Southern Railway had passenger service that came between Chattanooga and Memphis, Tennessee. And in my junior year, the second half of my junior year, my father was transferred from Knoxville, Tennessee to Sheffield. We moved around quite a bit because Dad was an officer of the railroad, and they would transfer him from location to location on the railroad about every 4 to 5 years. So Mom and Dad came down early, and I think David was still in college in Knoxville, and I was at Whittle Springs. No, let me correct that. I was actually at Fulton High School, and I had been attending there for about a half a year. So it was somewhere around 1965 to 66. We moved down here. Mom and Dad found a place for us to rent, and my friends put me on a train in Knoxville, and I rode the train overnight down to Chattanooga. And then we changed trains there, or I changed trains there, and rode the train on down to Sheffield. I was accustomed to riding on trains by myself. Dad had a pass for the family. We were able to ride passenger train free. So I arrived early in the morning on a Sunday morning, and never will forget, here at the train station, and Dad picked me up. And so from this station, where the platform is now, Dad picked me up, and we went down through the middle of town of Sheffield to our new place where they had rented up on 13th Court. It was a bright sunny day, never will forget it. Right before Christmas break, and then I started school at Sheffield High School in my second half of my sophomore year. Letting you know that this is coming from the train station where it used to be and coming to the south side of Sheffield. And this is the way Dad took me to the place where we lived. But Sheffield's changed a little bit. There was a large, to the right here was a large place called Plowboy that just had a lot of junk in it, best I remember. On the left up here was Walgreens, and I remember Dad taking me there pretty soon after we moved down here, because it was a great place to eat. It was just a little small place, but there was a lady in there that fixed biscuits that were just out of this world. That's what I remember, great biscuits. And of course back then everybody shopped in the town, so up and down either side of this road were shops. There was an Auto Speaks men's store on the left back there, I remember. That was kind of the luxurious place to buy clothes, I guess is one way of saying it. But there was a movie theater here on the left that I used to take my wife to a lot before we were married. But they've done a lot of work here trying to upgrade it, make it more attractive, and as some people say, more eclectic, attracting a younger business type crowd. And it appears to be working. I'm impressed with what they've done. We're still heading north. This was kind of the old main drag through Sheffield. And in the northern part here was where maybe the more wealthy people lived and bought homes. But a very nice place, a safe place to grow up back in the 60s. And as I said, we moved here in 1964. And it was over the Christmas holiday is when we moved here. So I didn't start school at Sheffield High School until the beginning of 1965. And this takes us up to I guess what I call the old water tower. I think they call it a steam pipe, I guess. But used to, they would paint go Bulldogs on this and everything. But it's a beautiful view over the Tennessee River, so I'm going to show you that. I'm going to stop here just for a few moments. But this was a nice place to come in the evening time, just and look out over the river. I have been corrected. I understand this is called the stand pipe. I do not know why, but I believe there's water in there. But I'm going to show you the view over the Tennessee River. Florence is located that way, Florence, Alabama, and I'll be taking you over there. That's where my wife and I went to college, and I'm going to probably take you by there. I wish the trees were maybe not so full of leaves right now. You can see more of the Tennessee River flowing that way. I'm going to take you around the standpipe and show you back down the main road that leads into Sheffield. There's some beautiful old homes out here. There are a couple for sale down that edge there that I thought about maybe investing in those and opening them up for, I don't know, a bed and breakfast or something. They're so pretty. They're on this main road. And you can see it's kind of quiet most of the time. The high school is located over that way. And also the junior high is over there. Fall is approaching. The trees have not really changed yet. But it's beautiful. This is leading up to Sheffield High School. This is where I went to high school in my sophomore year, the half of the sophomore year, and then all of the junior year, and then all of the senior year. And it hasn't changed too much since it was first built. Essentially the same as when we attended. Well, we had a fairly large graduating class. I think they said at one point it was one of the largest that ever graduated from this school. This part here is all new, right here, this new brick. And I'll go up by the football field, what we can see of it. This is all different. This wasn't here. This part of the school wasn't here when we attended. But this is the football field. This is the church that we attended when we first moved to Sheffield. At that time, it was named York Terrace Baptist Church. And I was just a youth, and they had a wonderful youth program back then. But I thought I'd show this because this is also the church that my wife and I were married in over 50 years ago. We have pictures of us coming out of these doors right after the ceremony. But I thought I'd show you something else that's kind of interesting. I don't know if you can see that portal right there, underneath there. But I came to pick up my wife at that time, the girl that I was dating, and my future wife, and she came out the doors. I believe it was the way it happened, and I gave her an engagement ring at that point, right there. She remembers it different than I do, just for the record. But we had a lot of good times here at this church. Now approaching where we rented a house when we first moved here. Mom and Dad came down and they found this home on 13th Court. And this is where I lived for about 7-8 months before they bought a house out in Rivermont. But it was the house right here with the antenna going up the side. But that was it right there. It looked like they've kept it nice. They built on in the basement because that right there was originally just a the driveway went up that way, and it was a garage. But it was close enough to the high school that during my sophomore year I could walk to the high school and walk back. Played a lot of basketball at Sheffield, and so practices lasted late, and they happened on Saturdays also, so I was able to walk back and forth. I'll show you something else that when my brother would come in from Atlanta, he would be here during that summer, particularly that summer of 1965. There was a place up here on the right where you could walk down to the Tennessee River. And they told us about it, and we found the way down. And it's probably about a quarter of a mile down to the river. But the river's down that way. And we'd go down there, and it was nice. Nice place to kind of sit and jump off some rocks and go swimming. When we lived here, we didn't really think about it that much, but the Shoals area, Muscle Shoals area, which includes Tuscumbia, Sheffield, Muscle Shoals, and I guess Florence, was very famous for music back in the 60s. And one of the famous studios was 3614 Jackson Highway. Apparently there was a lot of famous musicians came to record and had some very hits, a lot of hits in the music back in the 60s. This is one of the places, and the other place was called the Fame Studio in Muscle Shoals. And I'll try to go show that a little bit later on. I'm now headed toward Florence from Sheffield. And this is going across the bridge that spans the Tennessee River. The dam is to the right. Let's see if I can show you that. I don't know if that's getting it or not, but that's the dam. And then we're approaching Florence. Thought we would go over and film going through Florence. There was a place to go whenever a date night. You'd go to a movie over here. If it wasn't a movie that you'd already seen over in Sheffield or in Tuscumbia, you would come over to Florence. And that's part of your date. And then you'd go out to eat after that. You'd go to a Dairy Queen, or there was a Hardee's here on the right back in the day. And there's very few McDonald's. There was one in Muscle Shoals, and I think there was one in Florence. I'm not real sure. But this is the main approach into Florence. And then, of course, my wife and I attended University of, well, I think it's called University of North Alabama now. Back then it was called Florence State, back in the 60s. It's changed a lot. but the approach into the town hasn't changed any. What most of these small towns have done, they've come in and they've planted many trees to where it's more conducive to people eating out along the sidewalks, and there's small little delis, small coffee shops. But back during our time when we were here, there were shopping places, there were shoe stores, there was Belk's, large department stores downtown, and things such as that. This is where you came to do your shopping. They didn't have malls back then, or town centers. You came to town, you parked and you walked up and down, and that's where you did window shopping, or you did your clothes shopping, or shoe shopping, whatever you needed. But this has definitely turned into a college town. The university has grown quite a bit, I'm sure. It was just a small college when we were here. They made it nice. Some good places to eat, specialty shops. Back when we were here, I think the president of the school lived there. But this is approaching. Let me see if I can figure out which way to go here. It's changed so much. But I always thought it was a beautiful college. Kept up very nice. A lot of old buildings. I'll go this way so you can see how they've made it nice to the approach. This is what we remember. Used to, the road would go down between the buildings, and of course now they've stopped that and they put a fountain in. That wasn't there, but these old dormitories were here back then. Okay, we're going to go on around and see if I can film a little bit more. Something interesting about Florence is they have a home here that was built by Frank Lloyd Wright. And thought we'd just come by and show it. Very modern design. I'm going to go around beside it and see if I can film it from a different direction. This is the home that he designed for this area. This is the way to our home that we had in Rivermont. We moved to Rivermont from our rental house here in Sheffield probably in 1966, somewhere around there, 66. And so I'll never forget, Mom and Dad bought the home, and as best I can recall, it was $30,000 for the home. Of course, back then, $30,000 back in the 60s was quite a bit. And I remember Mom and Dad talking about it and saying, "Oh, I think we could make the payments and send our boys to college." So that's what they did, and we moved out here, and it's a nice place. But this is the way out to Rivermont from Sheffield. And there's an area that we go by here that you'll see in just a few minutes that is called the Villages. And the Villages have been here way back. And I think they were actually created back whenever they built Wilson Dam. And this was developed for workers that worked on that project that took some time to build. But I really like the style of these homes. They're kind of neat. They appear to be some type of stucco with a tile roof, many of them. But it's all out in that area there is the Villages. And they call this Village 1, and it's kind of a historic area. And you'll see some of the homes here. And some young couples have come out here and really fixed them up nice. I like them a lot. They have a lot of character. Similar in design, they actually even created a school. And you'll see that here as we approach. Off in the distance there is the original school for the village, for the kids of the workers. But it was designed specifically for the workers. And so from high school I would drive this way, going back home every day. And also when I was in college I would live out in this area. And the older Boomer brother would come home from time to time, and of course he would come out here and stay with us when he wasn't attending college up in Knoxville. It hasn't changed too much. They built a lot of new homes further back. When we lived here, there was nothing past this over section at all except woods and dirt roads. But I imagine these homes have been here since maybe the late 50s, some of them. That many people have really kept their homes up nice here. But we lived up here on the right. That second house on the right there is where I lived during my high school years and also college years, and a lot of memories of this area right here. Just videotaping again where I lived as a teenage boy in this home right here. A lot of memories about this house. In fact, the gutters I put up with a neighbor when I was a teenager. He worked with metal and he knew how to build gutters and so forth, and he and I put the gutters on this house. I remember Dad bringing the Jaguar back from Atlanta, driving up here and parking it up here. My wife and I, when we were dating, would come here often and just sit in the den and fix some popcorn and watch a movie. I know this is probably boring, but that old Magnolia Tree right there, we brought back from South Carolina back in about 1965. It was small then, but look at the size of that now. So it's got to be about 50, 55 years old, that tree. But this was our house in Rivermont. Many, many memories, good memories of living in this area. Back in the 60s, a simple time, a very good time for us.